The missing middle. Now, we're assuming here it's going to be gazetted in 2017, so it's not gazetted. As I said, it's currently out on display. We're ready to source our first site, and we've started looking at some sites. In fact, I was talking to Christine in our office today about a particular site that I believe will fit this scenario and fit the scenario for a dual occupancy. And she was actually making some investigations, talking to the agent about it today. And as I said, most people are still not even aware that it's a possibility, or not even aware that state government is currently talking about this. Now, to give you an understanding, and as you can see from this diagram, on the left-hand side you will see single dwellings. So homes, two-storey homes, single-level homes, your conventional homes. On the right-hand side you see apartments, multi-storey. At the moment, state government has what they call the exempt and complying codes, where we can have homes renovated, built, knockdown rebuilds, all that sort of thing done under exempt or complying development. The state government also has what they refer to as Planning Policy 65, State Environmental Planning Policy 65, which sets the codes and sets the parameters for multi-storey units and what is required to build those. What is missing is the bit in the middle, and that is the bit between the houses and the multi-storey. That is the bit which is dual occupancies, manor houses, townhouses, multi-unit dwellings. That style of development is what's missing, and it's been identified by state government, and it will be it's on display now. I think it has till, I think it's the 2nd or the 6th of December for that display to finish, and then they will be moving forward with their findings from there. So we're certainly very early on in the piece. What I wanted to do here is also give you a little bit of I suppose a little bit more of an understanding of the missing middle and just some of the stats around how that looks, and then I'll give you an example of one. But at the moment, the way state government has identified it is that Sydney is approximately 600,000 new dwellings short over the next 15 years. And what they have identified is that terraces and townhouses is seen as a way of getting there. So as I mentioned earlier, the New South Wales Department of Planning has released a discussion paper which looks at a way in which additional housing types can be included under a complying development, similar to what we're doing in the garden apartments. And they will be establishing complying development rules for townhouses, terraces, villas, dual occs, manor homes, and reducing the approval times and costs. So the policy gap, or the policy, the terminology used for that policy gap for medium density is referred to as the missing middle. And that's because there is, as I mentioned earlier, there is a lack of any overarching state planning policies, unlike the Affordable Housing SEP or SEP 65. So it's something to really look out for. And I'll show you a table further on that actually displays some of that, just to give you a better understanding as well of how that's going to look, because I think it's important for people to see that, you know, what it's going to allow, which is going to be predominantly medium density housing types, maximum 2-storey, assessed under a complying development. State government believes that the assessment time will be somewhere around between 20 and 30 days compared to currently 70 to 80 days for their DAs. We just had a DA come out today for a dual occupancy. It was in for 131 days. So it gives you an idea of what the missing middle is going to do for an approval like that. So we're very excited at Plan Assist to be seeing state government taking those initiatives and bringing those on board. So the question is, will you reap the rewards? And I certainly know we're going to make it as simple as possible for our clients to do that. This here is another Western Sydney scenario. it was this scenario, this one's in Collerton, so standard average suburb in Western Sydney, middle of the Western Sydney pocket, and a lot of growth identified for the area, a lot of infrastructure going in. Currently, obviously, most of you will know about the second airport that's going in Sydney and the proximity that Western Sydney, both northwestern and southwestern Sydney, have to the second airport. Again, I can go on with this for hours because that second airport has been identified. The government already knows when that second airport will carry more passengers than the current airport at Mascot. It's known it will take over, and it's going to take 20 or 30 years to get there. However, even building the airport is a 10-year project. The amount of jobs, the amount of infrastructure that is going to take place, the amount of housing that's going to be needed, and then the ongoing employment because of it. So back to Collerton, you can see here, standard home, in an average area, average suburb. So I'll go back to that feasibility for you. Yeah. Here we go. So you can see here, this is a feasibility that was run at the commencement of this particular transaction. And I won't bore you because I can see there's a lot of numbers on there, but if you look down on the bottom right-hand side, this property was purchased for $421,000. There was 2 dwellings built, which I will show you. One of them is sold at $610,000. This is very fresh. This is literally, this one has exchanged and not settled. The other one, I've put a number of $670,000 in here. It is on the market currently, hasn't sold yet, so I've had a guess. The one that sold for $610,000 is that home that I just showed you, which is that home, which has been renovated and not much done to it. The $670,000 is a brand new home that has just been completed. Again, I'll show you how that looks. And you can see from this feasibility a profit of over $300,000 to bring that together. Now, we've just finished building these dwellings. That was the existing dwelling that was on the block. So you can see it was certainly tired. And that's what's now on the block. So up the top is the existing dwelling that has been renovated. And down the bottom is the new dwelling that was built. The new one, as I said, is currently on the market. So that's, to me, a very simple transaction, yet very profitable transaction. The one thing that tends to slow the profit down on these transactions is the fact that it does take so long to get our approvals. And obviously we're looking at improving that by taking advantage of the state government policy. So as I mentioned, the property was purchased for $421,000. Construction cost was $250,000 for the new home. I think it was $220,000 for the new home and about $30,000 spent on the renovation. The homes were sold for $610,000 and $670,000. You'll see I have $670,000 in italics because it's not sold. That's just my best guess at the moment. So profit in excess of $300,000. My feasibility showed $339,000. I've just called it in excess of $300,000. So fairly simple and pretty straightforward. So I suppose the big question we have here is when do we want to do that? Oh, this is the table I was referring to here for you. So what we've grabbed here is you can see some parameters down the left-hand column. The second column is what is currently out on exhibition as what will be allowed for our multi-dwelling housing. Then there's 3 council areas, which is Blacktown, the Ponds and Randwick, and they've been picked for no other reason other than just grabbing 3 council areas, 3 different council areas, and looking at currently the way the state government policy reads is a block will need an 18-metre frontage to do multi-dwelling housing. Currently in Blacktown you need 26. In the Ponds and Randwick they actually don't set parameters currently. The block size for the state policy, 600 square metres, If you look at Blacktown at the moment, you would need 1,800, and at the ponds you would need 1,500. So you can see this is a marked improvement, and it's going to allow a lot more opportunity. Now, let's not get hung up on Blacktown. As I said, it just happens to be one of the areas, but you can see car parking were equal or better than what's currently there. Visitor parking is equal or better. Private open space, it's actually a little bit more than what's currently at the ponds. However, less than what's at Blacktown and just a fraction more than what's at Randwick. And communal open space, well, it's equal to the ponds on what's required. And solar access, no requirement there. So it's actually, if anything, relaxed the codes. It will allow for medium density and pretty well right throughout the state is where these policies will work. Now, as I said, the table is just comparing 3 different council codes. This table is if you're looking at developing 10 dwellings. So if I've just picked here, if we're going to do 10 dwellings, what are the requirements under the current codes and under the new codes? What would we require? So basically the table just demonstrates that the proposed codes, they're not overly onerous and they're not actually that necessarily overly generous, but what it does do is give us something that we can work with statewide. And remember, we've only picked 3 council areas there. There are 41. Well, they're actually currently all merging, so there could well be less than 41 council areas today. But the intention is to streamline the delivery of residential homes, which state government is looking for, and looking to get some rationalisation of medium density codes, which has been really been called for over the last few years by developers, by landowners, by investors. That's a really important facet, is to get some requirements that we can work with right across the state. So this will give us some significant differences. You know, the big differences are going to be in our lot sizes, private open space requirements that are going to be allowable. This is actually going to promote some smaller dwellings as well, and potential to unlock development in some areas that were possibly considered fully developed. However, it's really seen as providing a whole lot more housing. I think what it will do is some of the underlying land values in inner city and even some of the outer suburbs will become a little bit more affordable because of the lot size requirements, or a little bit more developable because of the lot size requirements. It will see more density increases, particularly around key transport nodes, local centres, those sorts of things. And it's needed. It's certainly been identified as being needed. So